Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of AGORACOM, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives about recent important news. With us today, again, I'm happy to have Matt Willer. He's VP of Sales and Marketing at Xylitol Canada, trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol XYL. For those of you who are new to the Xylitol story, this is a fast-growing, probably the fastest-growing natural sweetener company in the country. The company manufactures 100% North American-derived xylitol products that Matt will talk about more in the interview. But the products and timing couldn't be better given the movement by various governments and associations to ban sugary drinks, trans fats, and all other unhealthy, sugar-driven products that are out there. Now, more than just lip service, because there are a lot of people there who have great ideas. They talk a big game, but xylitol is delivering great results. On the revenue side, for the 12 months ended December 31st, 2013, company revenues came in at $6.5 million. That's an increase of 87%. And more recently, for the 6 months ended June 30th, 2014, revenues came in at $4.17 million for an increase of 67%. And by the way, do some extrapolation. All of 2013, $6.5 million. First half of 2014, $4.1 million. I'm seeing some pretty good growth there. Customers include Loblaws, Whole Foods, and Costco. Major shareholders include Dundee Corp, that now owns close to 30% of the company, and that's what we're here to talk about. Matt, welcome to the show.
George, thanks for having me. This is something I end up looking forward to. It's always a pleasure.
All right, so the news that we want to talk about today, you came out on September 30th that you closed a $1.65 million private placement. The important thing that came out of that is the material insider participation. Specifically, insiders took the entire $1.65 million. Let's talk about that. What does that say about the confidence in the company and its execution of its business? Not a share price or anything like that, but it's the investor confidence, insider confidence in the execution of the business. Sure.
Well, I mean, there's a number of different attributes that we can touch on that I think validate that confidence. But first and foremost, as you alluded to, 100% of the subscription was taken up by insiders. But I'll go a step further. 100% of it was taken up by two insiders, not a catalog of insiders. It was two. So you have Dundee Agriculture Corp, who is now our largest shareholder, who's been a backer of us for the last 2.5 years. I think it speaks in volumes the confidence that they have and what they think is coming in the future for them to come in for now a third tranche. If they didn't like what they saw once they got their nose under the tent after the first financing, there wouldn't have been a second, and there certainly would not have been a third. So we're really proud to have them as investors and also as advisors. I mean, they work very closely with the company, and we speak with upper management at Dundee on a weekly basis, sometimes a daily basis, and it's really been a win-win for everyone, and we think going forward it will be much more of a win-win for both parties. The second individual that participated as an insider was Tom Currens, who's been the chairman of the board since we went public in April of 2010. So I think that also speaks in volumes as to an individual's confidence. When someone starts to write a personal check for $650,000 at market price, no less, I think if it were me putting my money into a company at market price to that level, I'd have to have a pretty high degree of confidence that not only is the company have a track record of execution and achievement, but that the future was going to bring a significant upside. And I'm not talking about share price either. I'm talking about continued and measured business improvement. So I'll let the company's results speak for themselves, and we continue to feel like we're doing a very good job internally executing, and there's always room for improvement. But we've shown steady and pretty phenomenal growth, and we don't really see that changing in the near future.
Let's also mention for a second. Let's not forget something that's very important, because your last comment about the insiders could be diluted by the fact that we see private placements all the time that are announced by companies. Massive selling takes place. We find out later that most like what happened was those insiders sold at a little higher price so they could get the private placement at a lower price and have a warrant attached to it. what happened here that makes this private placement and the confidence of the insiders, I think, even greater, is the fact that A, you did it at market price, there's no discount, and B, there were no warrants. So this isn't the case of perhaps, you know, someone could opine that your chairman or Dundee sold some shares in the open market and strictly flip 4 quarters for $1 by then taking part in the private placement, but then they get the benefit of another, you know, $1.65 million of warrants. There were no warrants. This is a straight equity injection into the company,
Right.
and I think that's important for everyone at home to realize that.
It sure is. I mean, not the least of which is the unemotional comment about dilution. So, yeah, it's at market price. It's just purely shares. There's no units or warrants. You know, in the past, there have been times when we've raised money where, you know, we had to do it at a slight discount to market. There was some warrant coverage. So I think, you know, we're not, I wouldn't say we're in the power position, but the market speaks for itself, and that was what we were able to agree upon. So I think that also, you know, lends some confidence to people that, you know, the people that were involved, of course, should lend some confidence, but how it was transacted was in the benefit of all shareholders. It wasn't just looking after those that are already involved. So, yeah, we're very proud of the raise, and we're happy to have those that continue to support us as existing shareholders and people that have come on for a little bit more.
You mentioned in the press release that, and I'm going to read this here, Xylitol plant initiatives are coming to fruition, which brings the company closer to vertical integration. Let's talk. Can you talk a little bit more about the about your plant initiatives?
Sure. You know, so I have to be guarded on some elements of it, but I can speak to where we are with things. You know, when we went public in April of 2010, it wasn't to be a consumer packaged goods company per se. It was to actually build a xylose or a xylitol factory, so that we were in control of our own supply chain, so that we were able to offer you know, high value, semi-low cost product, because we were bringing on an available stream that that didn't exist before. So we ultimately, through an acquisition of one of our partners, had to shelf that plan indefinitely because of their merger and acquisition, where strategies changed, personnel changed, priorities changed. So we probably lost a year and a half from 2010 to, well, let's just say from 2010 to 2012. We were still working on the engineering and behind the scenes things during that time, but with them not being the partner in the plant, we had to seek elsewhere or search elsewhere. So we have found actually a few different partners for a few different projects. We'll obviously be able to announce those in the future once they're firmed up. But you know, you can look at our release the other day, and you can look at our release of a month or two ago, and see that we've hired a full-time engineer. Clearly, that means that there's full-time engineering work to be done, or we wouldn't allocate resources, right? And then we expect to be able to make some meaningful announcements to bring the public and shareholder base up to speed as to the progression that we've made. But needless to say, we're quite pleased with the stage gates that we've passed. This raise, in particular, really wasn't earmarked for the product business. I know we talk about the product business 9 times out of 10 because that's the here and now, and that's the revenue, and that's the growth. But the two do ultimately connect to mean a more meaningful overall company. So this raise was really earmarked for the plant side of the business, for some of the costs that are going to be incurred as we kind of go the last mile and ramp up to actually building a plant. So we're really excited to be able to share some of these milestones here in the very near future. The product business, I'm also pleased to say, is virtually self-sufficient. You know, we've grown year over year, quarter over quarter, to the point where, you know, very little of the working capital that we raised through this equity raise was earmarked for my side of the business. So, yeah, stay tuned. I guess it's exciting, but I have to be measured in what I share.
And last point I want to discuss, you heard me talk about your first half revenues, 4.1 mil. It's October 2nd today. So you finished Q3. Obviously, you can't talk about specifics until the numbers are out officially. But generally speaking, were you happy with Q3? And tell us about how Q4 is shaping up, because that is your #1 quarter. And maybe you can explain to some of the new people at home why actually it is your #1 quarter as far as the business goes.
Sure. Well, yeah, obviously I can't speak to specifics, but we're pleased with Q3. We think that it'll trend as past quarters have, and our numbers aren't even finalized yet. So I'm just saying, with what I know from a top-line view and a management view, we're pleased with what we're seeing. But let's speak to Q4, as I think that's really kind of where the juice from the squeeze is, for lack of a better term. Last you mentioned we did $6.5 million. However, 2.5 of that came in the fourth quarter. All right, so there is some seasonality to the business, and the reason is pretty intuitive. People use sweeteners during the holiday season. Okay, so people are baking more cakes, baking more pies. When we're talking about Canadian and U.S. Thanksgiving, we're talking about Christmas, and as such, retailers are stocking their shelves more aggressively leading into that period. So October, November, December very much is our busiest period, and of course that's squarely in Q4. But you start to see some activity even in September leading up to that as shipments head out for kind of the front end of the season. So we're excited to see what Q4 brings. We're off to what we feel is a strong start. We do obviously have 3 full months ahead of us where we need to execute. So nothing is a certainty at this point. But we like the optics of where we are now. We have no reason to believe that this won't be another record year. And I think the market sentiment and the customer base, speak for themselves as third-party validation of, kind of the reception our products are getting at both the, the store level and then certainly driven more by the consumer level.
All right, well, I'm going to drill down deeper into those once the Q3 numbers come out, when their specific numbers are reported, because what I want to address at that time, because we spent most time on the private placement today and what it means as far as conference goes, but what I want to talk about when the Q3 numbers come out are growth, where it came from, coverage in stores, increasing customer base, and all those kind of things. So plan to be available next 30 to 45 days when those Q3 numbers come out, Matt.
Yeah, well, I sure will, and I want to touch on one quick thing, since I think the plant will be an active topic here in the coming months. Just so people understand how the two correlate and tie together, so that's not two separate business units that don't have anything to do with each other. Currently, we are the largest reseller of North American xylitol. We manufacture a catalog of products that people can see on our website, but the driver of that is the actual sweetener xylitol. However, currently we don't produce it. We buy it from some of the largest mills in North America, who are simply massive, Fortune 500 ingredient companies. All right. Now, when we come online with the plant, we will have the ability to not only sell the product in bulk to other manufacturers, but we will supply the product division, which I look after, with its xylitol at an incredibly discounted price based on what we're currently acquiring it at. So the plant as a standalone models out to be very profitable, but the margin expansion that we get in the product side by being our own vertically integrated supplier is not something to sneeze at. And so the method to the madness is that from shovel in ground to flipping the switch and actually having a producing factory, we might be talking about 2016 by the time this is up and running. But if the product business continues to grow, we've gone from $1 million to $2 million to $3.5 million to $6.5 million. We'll see what we do this year. There's a very plausible possibility that we're on a $20 million or well beyond run rate at that point. So to think that you could essentially double your margins overnight by being your own supplier and still have the standalone product or plant side of the business have its own profit streams, it's a very compelling long-term story. And so it's one thing at a time, but I really feel like we're in the right place at the right time. I think the market is nothing but tailwinds, and so I'm really excited to kind of let the story unfold in front of investors' eyes, as we execute and continue to execute.
Hey, and looping back to the impetus of this interview to begin with, you got your chairman and your largest shareholder ponying up some pretty big amounts for a reason, and they've got that same visibility, and I think people at home can figure that out, that if they're ponying up that kind of money, the business, we never talk about the stock price, it's not what we're here to talk about, but they obviously have great confidence in the business and where it's going to go. So you're not just talking your book because you're the VP of Sales and Marketing, but the people behind the company are backing it up by putting their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, very true. Our thought has always been, and we continue to believe, the share price will take care of itself. We're here to run and execute, run a good business and execute on a strategic business plan. And you know, people voted with their checkbooks that are much wiser than I.
and I. So we'll leave it at that. You've been watching Matt Willer. He's VP of Sales and Marketing at Xylitol Canada. The company trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol XYL. You can find out more information about the company at xylitolcanada.com. Xylitol is spelled XYLITOL, but you can probably see that at the bottom of your screen once we've got this all wrapped up nicely in post-production. Or make sure you get yourself over to AGORACOM, punch in the company stock symbol, and take a look at all the interviews we've done with Matt so far, all the kind of updates in the webcast, so you can bring yourself up to speed as to where this company has been and where it's going. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time when Matt's back on the show.